News, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 570 WSYR, now on 106.9 FM.
Thank you, Don. 5 minutes after 8, Mark Wainwright filling in for Joe Galuski this morning. One of the stories that we're watching is the ongoing unrest, ongoing tension in Ferguson, Missouri, and the police response to everything that has gone on and how the community is responding to the police response. A vicious cycle keeps going around and around and around. We're joined now by Michele Byington. Michele is an attorney with U.S. Law Shield Firearms Legal Defense Program. They're an organization dedicated to protecting people's Second Amendment rights, and they offer various services and information to those who want to have their rights protected in circumstances where they may need to use a firearm. Michele, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Your organization, I guess, might have a different take on this than a lot of other people. First of all, I know that you are involved either directly or indirectly in providing legal representation for people who have had to use a gun in self-defense. Do you ever represent police officers?
We do. We have represented hundreds of police officers and advised police officers after they have had to use force in the line of duty.
What's the line typically? I mean, everybody says, well, you're not supposed to use lethal force unless a particular line is crossed. And it might vary a bit from state to state, but generally speaking, what is the justification for the use of legal force by a police officer?
Generally, when a police officer is in reasonable fear that they are going to sustain death or serious bodily injury, at that point, they may use deadly force to protect themselves or a third party. So if a third party is in that situation, they could step in if they have a reasonable belief that somebody is going to die or either sustain serious bodily injury. Now, the key word there is reasonable. And who decides whether someone acted reasonably or not in using deadly force is a jury. It's the criminal justice system's job.
And, of course, obviously that depends on the evidence and witnesses and everything else that comes to the fore in the wake of the investigation. The National Guard has been deployed. You've also undoubtedly seen the images of the amount of firepower that the constabulary there has been using. Some of it's pretty scary stuff. From your perspective as an attorney who deals with this on a regular basis, do you think it's over the top, or do you think their response has been more or less appropriate?
I think in the coming days I'll be able to answer that better, but right now what they're doing apparently is not working. But what I believe needs to happen is I think citizens need to stand up and say that this is inappropriate, this is an embarrassment to my city, and they need to be peaceful protesters rather than acting as criminals. And citizens may want to arm themselves to make sure that their businesses don't get burned down or their homes don't get burned down. Now,
Missouri is an open carry state, is it not?
That is correct.
Okay, so, I mean, here's a situation. Here you've got this community that is embroiled in this violence and this tension. I mean, how are the police going to react if they start seeing, citizens, people obviously without uniforms and ID, carrying firearms around? Isn't that just going to ratchet up the tensions that much more?
The folks in Missouri are used to seeing other people open carry. They're used to citizens open carrying their firearms. And keep in mind, the majority of firearms owners are law-abiding citizens. So one way to look at it is a police officer could say, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun may be a good guy with a gun if a police officer is not able to respond quick enough.
So, I don't know, as a cop in a situation like that, if I'm on knife edge with this sort of thing, I don't really want to see people carrying guns around. They may be good guys, they may be not so good guys, but obviously legally at least they can do that unless there's some kind of declaration of emergency or martial law or something like that. Thank you for your time, Michele. Appreciate it. An interesting perspective from an attorney for the U.S. Law Shield Firearms Legal Defense Program, folks who are very much dedicated to the protection of Second Amendment rights. 9.5 minutes after 8 o'clock, your News Radio 570 WSYR with Mark Wainwright for Joe Galuski this morning. Time for a look at traffic and weather together on the 10s. Here's Kathy Denman.
We are jammed up now heading into downtown.